talk firstly about the Fairfax-Nielsen poll, which came out this morning. Let me show you quickly the figures there. A dismal primary vote, much worse than that Essential poll. 26% support for Labor in the Fairfax-Nielsen poll. This is equal to its record low, down 2 points since the last one. And particularly concerning, I suppose, after the budget goodies that were directed at families a few weeks ago. On this poll, the Coalition would win an election with a 7% swing, which would be the biggest in nearly 40 years. But the pollster, John Sturton's, made the point no opposition leader has won an election with a net personal approval rating in the negative. And that's where Tony Abbott's rating certainly is. Take a look at this. His personal rating sank further, down a further 5 points in this poll. So he remains unpopular there. That's his approval and his disapproval. So his disapproval at 57%, his approval rating only at 39%. Finally, this was another one that I thought was really interesting in this Nielsen poll. Kevin Rudd is far more popular than Julia Gillard, but have a look at how he compares to Tony Abbott. Kevin Rudd is increasingly popular over Tony Abbott, 59% to 37%. That may be some food for thought for some Labor MPs weighing up where they are at the moment. Bruce Hawker, let's bring you in on this. What do you think about those sort of numbers?
Is in more trouble than the early settlers, David. We've got a long way to go before we can feel any sense of comfort in any of the numbers we see there. The only comfort that we do get from it, I think, is that Tony Abbott's numbers are so bad, and I think, however, that the opposition will probably try to start presenting a more positive image for him in the coming days and weeks. And on that front, I just note that in some ways he's sort of been a very effective opposition leader in driving the negatives down or driving the negatives up for the government. But when you do that, you invariably drive your own negatives up as well. So that is the big opportunity for Labor going into the next few weeks and months, to really start to turn the attention on to Tony Abbott. And I think what Peter Lewis said at the end is probably right. I think it's a sense in the electorate that politics generally is being played out at a pretty ranked level, and I suspect that the hung parliament's got something to do with that. The fact that we really have people like Craig Thompson who are playing such an important role in the political life of the nation right now means that everyone is being tarnished by that.
Well, Tony Abbott, as you can see on your screen there, didn't change his tactics on the basis of today's poll at all. He went to a council waste disposal centre. Perhaps not going to a rubbish dump, perhaps not the best idea on a day when your poll numbers slide, but I don't think he's headed for the rubbish dump himself anytime soon. Grahame Morris, is keeping up his relentless attack on the carbon tax and questioned, when are you going to turn positive? He says getting rid of this tax is positive. So no change in tactic from Tony Abbott. Would he be worried about that personal satisfaction number or not?
Well, look, everyone loves to be loved. But he knows as well as I do, and, I keep trying to educate journalists and even a couple of pollsters that the opposition leader's figure has never mattered. Never mattered. Otherwise, Paul Keating, Malcolm Fraser, John Howard would never have become Prime Minister because they were never in front either.
But John Howard did have a positive satisfaction rating. That's the point. And so did Kevin Rudd.
It doesn't matter. It is all about the party vote. And look, at the moment on the polls, 1 in 4 or at best 1 in 3 people is going to vote Labor. And we've just had billions of dollars given away on the budget, and the Labor Party effectively went backwards. Now, last month during the budget, the Prime Minister had to win 90,000 votes per month, every month, for 18 months, just to get back to the level of a hung parliament, and another month is gone, offered billions. And what is more worrying, I think, for the government is that was the last chance. Between now and then, there's never going to be front-page news stories again saying, oh, well, some pensioners might get some money, or some workers might get a bit of a handout. Yeah. From here on in, it's all going to be bad news. It's bad news.
Bruce, you said Labor in more trouble than the early settlers. The bottom line is you can't go an election with a primary vote at 26%.
No, you can't. I mean, that would be a wipeout. I think we'd lose something in the order of 30 seats in the Parliament, would leave us with 40-something perhaps. So that would be a devastating result, and potentially wipe us out for the best part of a generation. So Labor has to take this extremely seriously. I think there is some comfort in the fact that Tony Abbott doesn't seem to be able to change his approach to politics. That is remarkable given the state of play right now.
But it's working. It's working. That's the point, isn't it? I mean, the numbers tell the story. Yes, as Grahame says, his personal support may not be where he'd want it, but the governments are elected based on the primary vote.
Well, in large part that's true, although this is a remarkably low number for him, and I think it does point to opportunities for the government, and that's where I would, suggest that they go, and I'm sure they're trying to go there. But of course, while we're dealing with people like Craig Thompson and Peter Slipper, it's very hard to focus on Tony Abbott and the $70 billion black hole. This is the big opportunity for Labor, I think, to really start to nail him on where he's going to find the money to pay for his promises. That's a huge amount of money. And
surely the government can really only take advantage of an unpopular opponent if they have a popular leader themselves. When do you think the question will seriously be asked about changing leaders?
Well, you have to ask to whom the change is going to be made, because Kevin Rudd's made it quite clear that he's not going to be challenging. He's heading off to China today. He's going to be spending a week up there. He's got a new grandchild. He's very happy in his own skin, I think. So that's the rub now for everybody. I don't think Kevin Rudd's in any great hurry after what we went through a few months ago to go through that process again.
He ruled out challenging, but if the party came to him, surely, with a tap on the shoulder to Julia Gillard, surely he wouldn't refuse it.
Well, I'm probably the last person to work out what the party should do. I had a certain view about those things.
You might be the best person to tell us what Kevin Rudd would do. Well,
I think we would just have to ask Kevin Rudd what his view would be about something like that. I wouldn't be presumptuous enough to ask him or to speak on his behalf on that issue.
Grahame, Bruce, it has to be careful here.
Let me give you some advice, mate.
Look, the Labor Party is in a position now where this is not there is no policy solution anymore. When you're this low, it's a personnel solution. And for those marginal seats out there, I can tell them, and any minister, the best campaigner the Labor Party has ever had, or either side of politics, is worth 2 or 2.5%. That's the really best, and there aren't many good campaigners in the Parliament now. So any marginal seat member, the best they can do is 2.5% for their own brilliance. 5, 6, 7, 8 is going to go straight over the top of them. And this really is a personnel problem. And I've thought too, how would you do it? Bill Shorten said he's not going to challenge the Prime Minister. Fair enough, some of the others aren't going to challenge. And I presume Kevin won't. But at some stage, I think people will look back on this 26 poll and they'll say this was the beginning when 20-odd people started to get together to tap the Prime Minister on the shoulder. It wouldn't have to be 20 very senior people for the Prime Minister to move. But by jingoes, if I were in the Labor Party and sitting in any seat under about 8%, I'd be trying to find 20 people before Christmas.
And Grahame, let me ask you the timing of this. You said before Christmas. What about the upcoming winter break? Parliament's back in a couple of weeks for 2 weeks, and then they're off for the long winter break, when the carbon tax will come in during that time. Yeah. Would you let Julia Gillard stay there and absorb the impact of the introduction of the carbon tax, or would you get it over and done with?
Oh, look, there's been a lot of talk about things would happen in July. I don't really understand that. Look, the best time for any change, and particularly this one that looks as if it's coming, is Christmas time, where a new leader can pick a new team, have the chance to get them all ready before Parliament resumes in February for election year. Doing it now, many would say it is time and we can't wait any further. But I'm not quite sure that there are 20 people ready to tap the Prime Minister on the shoulder, and for whom. In an ideal world, if you're a Labor person, it'd be Kevin 1 and Shorten 2.
Bruce,
that's a deadly combination.
Can this drag out till the end of the year?
Well, I think Julia Gillard actually is owed the opportunity to sell the compensation package. The tax basically kicks in, as we know, at the beginning of July, although the compensation for it is now starting to come about. I think the ads may have some effect. I, for one, actually felt that the ads should have mentioned the carbon tax, because absent the carbon tax in the ads, it doesn't really make it clear what people are being compensated for. But clearly a decision was made about that. Now, I think the party has made a decision that they're going to allow this process to take its course, that Julia and others have made it quite clear that they believe that they can sell the compensation package and the merits of the tax. And obviously, if that's the case, then you need beyond the winter break in order to do that, because the tax doesn't even come into place until 1 July at the end of the...
If I were advising the Prime Minister, I'd be saying, beware the Christmas elves.
All right. On that note, we will wrap it up. Grahame Morris, Bruce Hawker, thanks for that. We'll catch up next week. After the break, the Diamond Jubilee will be...